Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Sellerboard Show. This is your host, Fernando. And today I have a PPC specialist for you. Her name is Elizabeth Greene from Jungler. You're going to love this interview. Stick around. Welcome, guys. I got here the Elizabeth Greene from Jungler, and she was so nice for having us today. And thank you, Elizabeth, for being here. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. We were talking about just before we got on, like, oh, are you okay? Are you okay? Because we just had the hurricane go through. Thankfully, both of
Yeah.
us
And
are
we both
doing
live in
fine.
Florida.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh
Good,
yeah.
good, good. So I the only thing that I didn't like was like Monday, my internet was kind of slow.
Mm,
And that was like, oh, that's the only thing. So that's good.
yeah.
All right. So of course you're gonna talk about PPC.
Yes.
Or how do you want to start? Do you want to start with your story?
Yeah, I mean, I can get you in a nutshell what we do. So we're an Amazon advertising agency. So I was kind of telling you, like, Amazon advertising, that's my bread and butter, that's my wheelhouse. I talk about a lot of different things, but if you want to call me like one thing I'm confident in, would definitely be Amazon PPC.
Mhm.
And then as far as how we got started, brief, 2-second version would be started recognizing, I would say early 2019, 2018, Amazon PPC was starting to move from should I run this to, okay, how do I run this? And so there's a lot of people asking questions, and, I had the answers to those questions. And so I just started answering like, hey, I know the answer to that. It's going to take me 2 minutes to give you the answer. And then it just kind of went up from there.
Nice. All right. What's your favorite ad type? Sponsor brands, product, or display?
So I think they all have their place. I would still say that sponsored products has not been knocked off its high horse yet. Like larger brands, although sponsored brands definitely has like that brand building aspect to it, which Amazon is giving more and more creative control. Sponsored display definitely had the most updates, recently to, that ad type with
Did
more.
you have you started with sponsored display video already?
So we've been dabbling with it. Not all of our clients have access to it yet. So, if and when they get access, I always say, like, if you have the creatives, that's the hardest part. Maximize those creatives as much as possible. So I definitely think that'll be very exciting. But the one thing about a lot of the other ad types is just, the potential impressions or the potential just volume for those ad types is not what you see in sponsored product ads. That being said, because sponsored product ads are honestly the easiest to set up, and it's the first place everybody starts, they are getting much more competitive. So I would say they're much more difficult to run these days, mostly just from a competition standpoint, not because I think they're overly complex. But I mean, as far as like going after things aggressively for ranking, I don't think you can beat sponsored product.
Got it. If you have a small account with a limited budgets, would you go for try to merge using the three types of ads? Would you try more sponsor brand video? Would you try more sponsor product?
Um, this goes back to kind of our prior discussion when I said it depends. There's a lot of questions like that. You're like, it depends. If you are trying to leverage sponsored products to rank, like if you're trying to go after things aggressively, specifically for ranking purposes, I would say focus on sponsored products.
Got it.
Now, if your goal is simply to get visibility for your products and you're trying to run ads profitably, oftentimes the other ad types, sponsor display or sponsored brands video, tend to sponsor display tends to have a lower cost per click associated with it. So oftentimes you can get much better returns. And then sponsor brands video tends to have a much better conversion rate. Now the variable is like how well did you set them up? How well is your targeting? That goes across the board for any of the ad types. But I would say like if you're specifically going for ranking purposes, I see no issue on focusing on sponsored products, getting that right, and then moving to the other ad types.
Cool. Nice. Do you like any automation tools for PPC?
I think automation tools have their place. They have everything. My thinking is the robots do what we tell them to. And so the variable is, do you fully understand can you extrapolate on the rules that you've set up? For instance, if you say, I'm going to set up that anything over 15 clicks, no sales, I want to add this as a negative keyword into my ads. Does that make sense for your brand? Does your brand have a conversion rate that 15 clicks gives you 100% certainty that that's not going to work? Are you going to end up negating things that eventually down the road probably wouldn't work so well for negation? And so there's other things like that, like bidding strategies. If you set that up to run, it will run and it's doing what you told it to do. The thing is, do you fully understand how everything works together to be confident in those changes? So I like systems that, one, I can completely understand, and two, I have complete confidence in the changes that are being made, that those are the changes that I would like to make. I tell brands all the time, your intuition on what should be done for your brand oftentimes is correct. It's just, is the system going to do what you want it to do? Can you find a system that you can work with? And if you can, great. If not, there's some other great options out there. There's still some people who do it manually. And the thing with that is it is very time consuming. But a lot of times, your intuition is really good. So maybe you can get results that way and you're fine with the time factor.
Got it. Another question. Do you like Amazon DSP?
I think DSP has its place. We don't run that really aggressively for any of our brands, mostly because I always say, if you haven't fully tapped what's in the ad console, probably don't mess with DSP, mostly because, you need to have the budget for it and you have to understand really that ecosystem, because a lot of sellers now, profits are just getting smaller, margins are getting smaller, rising costs, all of that great stuff. And so they go into DSP thinking okay, I'm going to run this super profitably. They see all the screenshots, DSP is amazing, returns are awesome, look what we can do for you. What you're not being told is those are all retargeting ads. There's nothing wrong with retargeting. Two things on that. One is that you need to actually have enough traffic to the listing to have enough people to retarget to make that worth it. And then two, you're not actually gaining additional shoppers for your brand. You're simply pulling off of shoppers who you've already gotten. There are ways to run, more conquesting. You can do brand awareness campaigns. You can go out there. The capabilities of DSP is sponsored display campaigns times 20 on steroids. The amount of targeting you can get into is amazing. And so for people who want to be really creative with how they're going out and finding shoppers, phenomenal. It takes time to do that. And then two, you just need to be able to have the budget to be able to test this and recognize that my initial ROI on this is not going to be the same as if I'm running a super targeted sponsored product, highly relevant keyword. It's not comparable.
What would you say would be the percentage of sales comparing DSP with the ads on Amazon? Would DSP be 10% of the sales, 20% of the sales?
Yeah, so again, it really depends. It depends on what your targeting is, how well you convert on that targeting, and then, what's your ad budget? There's some people who run DSP, they want to run it really lean. They don't want a huge ad budget. And at that point, it's not going to be a huge percentage, versus if they're going super aggressive after things. So again, it's kind of relative.
Okay. I saw your video about search query performance, right? Would you say if you are a brand 2022, would you say this is the place that you can get the most opportunities and insights in 2022?
Oh yes, by far, especially now with the update of the ASIN views. That's phenomenal, because before it was okay, great, this information's amazing, but it's aggregated at a brand level. So unfortunately what happened is that the larger brands got much less information out of the search query, and if you were a really small brand and only had a couple products, you were getting a much more insights.
There's just one tiny thing missing there, the goddamn it sport button.
Yes, I know they created a pop-up and they're like, it's coming. And then of course, how long till that gets there? I don't know. They
Mhm.
told us it's coming. We're excited. There are some people who have created, I think that there's ways to automate like export flows. Or you can technically like copy and paste. It does somewhat copy and paste.
That's what I did. Yeah, copy and paste and then start making filters and removing everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Question. Just for like for the median brand owner that's new to search query, 3 things that we can do with this that you
One,
can put into action right away.
yes. One, I love it for discovering what search queries Amazon thinks are important to my brand and to my
Mhm.
ASINs. I mean, that's amazing. Oftentimes people would go through and they say, oh, like what's working in my organic? Because that's the benefit of ads is you can get very specific like keyword search level information on how does this market react to my product. But oftentimes if we wanted to look at like, hey, well, how am I doing in organic? You would be like, oh, use an additional tool, reverse ASIN search, kind of see where you're ranking and then infer some things. If you actually go into the glossary and read how Amazon does like that, what is it? They're something rank. I forget what the name is. They're taking into account multiple factors. They're taking into account add to cards, clicks, impressions, how the market's reacting to your product, and then they rank that by how important they think that keyword is to
You
your
see,
brand.
guys, this is how you become an expert like Elizabeth Greene. You read glossaries.
Read
That's how you
glossary,
do.
read all the information. Yes. So I mean, when I saw that, they are actually factoring in impressions into that, which I found interesting. Like, oh, you're factoring in impressions into how important a keyword is to my, I mean, if you go read it, it's quite informative. Again, they're never going to give us information on how their algorithm works. They just won't. They
Mhm.
never will. First off, I don't think anyone who's even working on the algorithm, everything is so boxed inside
Mhm.
of Amazon that I don't think anyone who's working on it fully understands how it works. But the other thing is, like, when they give us information like that, then people are going to try and game the system. So they're interested in as level a playing field as they possibly can get. But when you see things like that, it gives you a little, oh, okay, so that's at least a factor. How much it is, how weighted it is, I don't know. No one's going to be able to tell you. But when you can get clues like that, I always find it very interesting.
Okay, so you can see what are the 3 things you can see how what
Yeah,
search
so
terms.
how important is a keyword to your product? And again, you can go through ASIN dashboard, see how important is this keyword to my ASIN. That can give you information on that. I also love it to see historical data. So the other thing you can go back is you can look at like year over year. And you can see like, okay, for this particular search query, one, how does the keywords change? And then also how does like my add to cart percentage and how does my conversion rate percentage? And the other thing is you can look at the median price points. I find that very interesting. So for instance, if yes, it's when you're talking about large brands, thousands of products, so many different variations, it can get very overwhelming to try and do it for every single product. Wish we could. Once there's an export button, maybe we can.
Mhm.
But for right now, I would say pick your top ASINs, know what keywords you're going after for ranking, and then you can use the search query analysis to go through and say, okay, here's how I'm stacking up against the competition. That is one of the most powerful things in the search query performance dashboard. Because people used to say like, hey, how's my competition doing? How am I stacking up? How am I versus the category? What's my BSR? And there was only so much you can glean from it. And now you can go through and say, hey, you want to try and rank on this keyword? Our add to cart percentage, our conversion rate percentage is actually lower than the competition in the market. And hey, look at the average price point. The average price point of converted products is $10 below us. Okay, so that probably tells me that this particular market is really competing on price versus this other keyword. We are getting great conversions, we have great add to carts, and our price point is much more aligned with the type of products these shoppers are looking for. Great, maybe that's our other target. So I love it for finding ranking keywords and also to determine how well you're doing versus your market on a specific search query level, which is why this information is so powerful.
Okay, another question for you. I'm throwing a lot of bumps at you. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Amazon attribution, running ads on Google, Taboola, and linking back to your products. Have you ever worked with that?
So I don't, because again, Amazon PPC is my wheelhouse. I do think it is important to track things though. So if you're going to run off platform traffic, if you're putting that towards the listing, again, the more you can track, the more data you can get on those things. Big fan.
Nice. Not that, and I have so many bumps already. I'm
All
sorry.
right, keep them
Okay.
coming.
Sponsor brand, product catalog, and sponsor brand video.
Yeah.
Let's say the brand has a tons of assets. So lots
Mhm.
of lifestyle images, lots of videos, and they want to test and see which one is better. So we're basically doing A/B testing with sponsor brand, product catalog, sponsor brand video, and it's a big mess because
Yeah.
now we have 10 campaigns all competing with each other. How do you do it?
Yeah. It's a big challenge. So we did attempt to do A/B testing for a client. And when I say attempt, there is no good A/B testing with video ads or any creatives. Maybe
Especially if you have like running 10 at the same time.
yes, there is no. Okay, so I mean, I can go through a spiel on this. There's two ways that you could try this. And so one way would be to run them all in tandem, same keywords, kind of same build out, same landing pages. But the variable is the creatives. The second thing people have taught is, okay, so maybe you run one for a month or two and then pause that one and then turn the other one on. If I had to choose, I would say run them in tandem. Reason being is that I actually had a post on LinkedIn about this. There's this whole nuance on Amazon that like if you start a new campaign, it takes a little while to like warm up. Sometimes they take off, sometimes they don't. And so you're introducing another variable of like, is this a new campaign? Is it just that it's a new campaign, or does it really not work as well? So I would just say run them in tandem. The problem with running things in tandem is what Amazon is going to do is they're going to choose one of the keywords that you're advertising to trigger that ad spot. So you don't compete against yourself as in drive up bids, but there is some, I wouldn't even call it competition. I'm not sure what the right word is. But only one of your campaigns with one of the keywords is going to be able to trigger that particular ad spot. So does that one work better because Amazon's just favoring that campaign, or does it work better because of the creatives? If you don't get enough impressions, clicks, etc., across all of the campaigns, it's really difficult to make a determination. Does this creative work better or worse? So that's kind of the issue that we ran into. So I would say, like, if you're going to test it, you want to test it on your high volume traffic, because then ideally you can get a better idea. If you're testing a whole bunch of low bid, like broader targeting stuff, you're not going to get any data back. So the variable is, yeah, what data can we get back? How clean is the data? It's not very clean. I don't see an issue if you have like a main keyword and a bestseller and something works really well and there's high volumes and lots of data to it. I could see, again, trying to split test that. But I would say pick your battles. Like if it came down to, hey, let's split test all these creatives, or hey, let's go launch a whole bunch of new campaigns and do a whole bunch of keyword research to like drive harder into the market, I would say my time's probably best spent on the second one. But if you have the bandwidth and you have the creatives and you really, there's no harm in testing. It's like, how good's the test? Not that great.
Got it. I have a stupid question now. Let's say all the competitors are bidding like $2 and you have two sponsor brand videos bidding on the same keywords. One is bidding $10, another one is bidding $9. How much am I paying for this $10 here? Am I paying $9.1 competing with myself, or am I paying $2.01?
Yeah, you'd be paying $2.01.
$2.01 competing with the others. Oh, that's a relief.
So you don't compete against. Okay, so here's the thing: you don't compete against yourself. Okay, like you won't drive up your own bits. You won't drive up your own bits. Like if you have a $10 and you have a $2, no. What can happen is you can make yours. Okay, so like I said before, if you have like the same keyword, the same match type, the same search term, only one of those things is going to trigger that search. right? So you're only going to get clicks and impressions here. Maybe all the clicks and impressions are right here. What you can end up with potentially is you going through your analysis and you're like, oh, wait, this keyword is not getting any impressions. I'll probably raise my bids. That's a very normal thing. Hey, go through the account. What's not getting impressions? What do I want to get impressions on? Let me increase the bids. Well, really, the reason that it's not getting impressions is because the impressions are all being triggered and the clicks and all the stuff is being triggered through something else. So you might end up raising your bids. It's not going to make you pay a higher cost per click, but sometimes, you just keep raising this one bid and it's higher, 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 and eventually that one triggers and it's higher cost per click than you wanted. That introduces complexity into it. You're not going to pay more than whatever the next highest average cost per click is for that one ad spot. In that particular scenario, how much are you hurting yourself? I would say minimal at most. So if you end up with a couple duplicates, it's not the end of the world. I would say you're fine. Don't sweat it.
Okay.
You can drive yourself crazy.
How much was the biggest account that you managed? How was yeah, like ad spend per month or per year?
I forget what the ad spend was.
Like in an order of, it doesn't have to say a number like 15 million, 100 million.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm trying to think. We had one brand, they were doing like 20 million a year in sales, I think. I'm trying to remember. They ran it pretty lean though. So there are some brands like you need to be brands that are that size. Oftentimes they'll get very aggressive with the ads, but not always. If you're keeping up, there's a lot of people say like, hey, do I need to run aggressive ads? Like maybe I want to bring back ad spend. Maybe it's getting too much for me. Okay, that's fine. But what are you doing outside of ads to grow sales? So like this brand owner, super savvy. He was always doing prices, coupon. He knew what was going. He knew what was going on in his market. He knew what was going on in his competition. And there are brands who can get away with running maybe more minimal ads and not being aggressive, but they are keeping up with competition and they are keeping up with the market. And I wouldn't say playing game, but they're running other strategies outside marketing. If marketing is your only play, if Amazon PPC is your only play, you're going to need to be more aggressive there. If you can be aggressive elsewhere, then you can kind of balance it with less aggressive ads.
Nice. Very good. Okay, next question. We have people that are used to work with social media ads and they think their ads are more like in a funnel. They want to call attention, put impressions out there, see who is viewing the video, and then start building the funnel down. I never thought about this way when doing PPC on Amazon. Have you ever thought about that? Like building a funnel like this?
Yes, I've thought about it.
Okay. And how would you go about that? Like sponsored display for top of funnel?
So the thing is, I think sometimes we try and introduce concepts into Amazon PPC that don't exactly fit.
Yeah.
And it just makes our life complicated.
Exactly.
Because, okay, so the thing is, how I would build it. Like if I'm gonna build that funnel, if I say, okay, this is awareness, this is like my consideration, and this is my, like, how do you build that into sponsored products? Well, you would look at like the keywords. So you would say, okay, maybe I am selling a crystal wine glass, for instance. So like my top of search, my like awareness might be like wedding gift or something. Like this is very applicable. But it's more general. So I think people made aware of my product. And then I don't know what you would do mid of funnel consideration. Maybe you would do like, I don't know.
Yeah,
like
maybe
posting glasses for wedding or something. But then, okay, so then at that point, what happens when your wedding gift keyword pops off?
Yeah.
And you're making all the sales? Like, is that still consideration? But people are doing purchasing intent through that particular one. So at that point, it's like, it's not consideration anymore. And if you've named it consideration, but consideration all of a sudden is driving all your sales, then you're like, this doesn't, like, don't try and shove it into a box. If it, like, to me, okay, there's three things. Is it working? These are the keywords that work for my brand. These are the things that work for my brand. These are the things that drive large amount of sales for my brand. These are like my purchase intent stuff. Then I have the stuff that I'm testing, and then I have my low bid strategies. You know, like broad single word low bids, all the stuff that I'm keeping repressed. I'm not scaling it. This is the stuff I'm working on. These are the stuff I'm going hard after, and I just run it like that.
Got it. Okay. Do you like working with listing optimization, product optimization, or you just like to look at PPC?
Yes. So I think it's important. I don't think you can underestimate the importance of listing optimization. That being said, it's not something we handle, but we definitely have people we partner with. So if a brand needs help in that aspect, I'm like, hey, you probably should take a look at this. Here, go talk to these people. There are brands we work with who have stuff in house. So what we'll do is we'll go through, like there'll be some things in the catalog that really haven't gotten ad attention, but when we go and look at the listing, we're like, hey, you know, maybe your in-house team should take another look at this. Let's see if we can get conversion rates up before, you know, we run traffic to it. Because at the end of the day, ads are traffic. If the traffic doesn't convert, well, that doesn't serve anybody.
Yeah, it's leaking.
Yeah, you definitely want to pay attention to how well your listings do. Great way to look at that is, what is your unit session percentage? A lot of people ask me like, oh, what should it be on average? I would say also look at your unit, especially if you have a larger catalog, like look at the unit session percentage versus your entire catalog.
By the way, guys, she's talking
Yeah.
about conversion rate. Unit session
Yes.
percentage is
Yes.
conversion
Business
rate.
reports, unit session percentage, organic conversion rate. So
So
yes.
what's the average? I'm sorry.
What was that?
I was interrupting you. You were talking about the average of unit
Oh,
conversion
yeah,
rates.
yeah. So I would take a look at like, how is this product doing versus the average in my catalog? That'll give you an idea if you're above or below. The other great thing, again, search query performance, search query dashboard. You can look at conversion rates there. And then another great thing to do, I love, is inside the ad console, there's something called brand metrics that gives you how
Yes.
to brand stack up versus the catalog.
That's what I was looking for
Conversion
right
rate
now.
there. Yes.
Good. Yeah, so that's important, guys. On your advertising console, where do we go? We go on the
It's on the left. It's a little
measurements.
square. It's like a square with a arrow graph.
Oh yeah, brand metrics. There you go.
Yes.
So a lot of people don't know about this.
Oh, it's phenomenal.
It's very good. So you can compare your conversion rates to your category. So you see how you're doing.
Yeah.
That's very good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What else? What is one thing that you would say for the average Amazon seller in 2022?
I would say that there still is a place for everyone on Amazon. Like there still is a place to win on Amazon. That being said, I think it's important to recognize things have gotten more competitive. Two reasons for that. One, rising cost per clicks. And it's not like, there's a lot of shoppers who feel like, oh, Amazon's just out to get us. Like they're creating all these ad placements and the cost per, the market's actually increasing the cost per clicks. Amazon's not going through and saying like, oh, we're going to put minimums on what you can do for cost per clicks. Like the minimum bid for all of the ad types is still the same as it's always been. They have never increased that. What has increased it is your competitors willing to pay double what you are. And so therefore costs go up. And so I would say you still can win. One, it's really important to understand your business and understand your numbers. And I know this is outside of like the PPC wheelhouse, but know what your margins are. Start there. If you do not know what your actual margins are, don't go through. It's like, oh yeah, we calculated it like a year ago. I think it was like, maybe 20%. Like, no, go get your cost of goods, find out what they are now, find out what they are, including all of your shipping costs. One, they may surprise you. And then two, that actually gives you perspective on what you can do. Because I always tell people, I'm like, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, margins have always been important. Like, I don't care what business you run, how you run it, Amazon or off Amazon, you always should know what your margins are. Some people are like, hey, there's money in the bank. I don't have to worry about it. If you were calculating margins and factoring in that 4 years ago, you probably could have put a lot more money in the bank without just running it so loose. Now it's becoming very important. So if you know your numbers, you know how tight or how much room you have. And then you can let that influence the conversation on how aggressive should we or shouldn't we be on ads? How much wiggle room do we have? For instance, on a launch, if your entire ad account is highly profitable, you might have room to run at a loss for a while on a new product versus if like this is your only product, you have very limited budgets and you have no wiggle room, that's going to be more difficult. And I mean, you just have to know what your playing field is or know what you can do, and then that gives you more perspective on how you can play the game.
Nice. Thank you so much. Last question, I promise. How do people contact you?
Yeah. So if you just want to see what I'm yakking on about, you can go follow me on LinkedIn. I've been putting out the most content there. And
Yes,
then,
she is. She's
yeah.
definitely. Yeah.
And then if you're interested in working with us, the best place is our website, which is jungler.com, JUNGLR.com. And then, yeah, form at the bottom. You actually get to talk to me and see if I can help.
Nice. Thank you so much, Elizabeth.
Yeah.
So I don't want to take too much of your time. If you want to go back on the podcast, we would be very happy to have you again.
Oh, absolutely. This has been fun.
Yes. Thank you so much. Yeah. And people, don't forget, go to jungler.com to see her services and contact with her, maybe schedule a call. And I hope you like this interview. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you. And that was our interview with the Elizabeth Greene from Jungler. I hope you guys liked it. And don't forget to go to our website, sellerboard.com. If you are a seller on Amazon, if you need to keep control of your expenses, of your P&L, of your inventory, sending messages to the customers, you have to join sellerboards.com right now. Don't forget to do it, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.